Good morning, and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and score them based on the store pages. Now, I have seen the feedback on previous videos and wanted to make sure that I set the record straight. Basically, you all are right. Dumb concept for a video? I absolutely agree. Obvious glaring problems reviewing games that I don't play? Also correct. But here we are, reviewing the marketing for games old and new. And now that it's a new month, it's time to suit up and dive in to Sports Month. That's right. In honor of both the Winter Olympics and the Super Bowl this month, we are going to look at sports games. And in the spirit of full disclosure, this is the genre of gaming that I am easily the least knowledgeable about. But I am going to try to be as neutral as possible in reviewing the marketing as we start things off with a major title from a few years ago: Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. Okay, we're off to a weird start when the video game title is as long as modern anime adapted from light novels. Though I do admit this is not the absolute longest game title I've ever reviewed. Oddly enough, this was released in November of 2019, despite the actual Summer Olympics it was based on being in July of 2020. Developed by Sega, it appears to be the last in the series of Mario and Sonic Olympic games. From what I understand, the Olympic Committee seems to have declined renewing licenses that would be required for future games. I mean, I'm sure Mario and Sonic could do any number of interesting sports and party games together without the Olympic branding, but I guess that brand recognition might count for something when it comes to getting people to buy their games. Maybe not so much me personally because I'm not a huge sports fanatic myself. Um, but there might be some kind of a fringe of the market where it's like they don't really care about the Mario and Sonic. They like the Olympic side of it, and depending on what people like. So, part one for this, we have our trailers. We get a whopping 3 trailers for this, which does seem pretty unusual for most of the games I see on the Switch. I usually see anywhere from 0 to 2, and honestly, the 0 shows up too often. The first one is going to show us some very short snapshots of gameplay with racing, surfing, skateboarding, martial arts, a very brief teaser of 2D gameplay, rock climbing, and basically a huge array of the kinds of general events that you would expect to see on TV during the weeks of the total Olympic Games. The second trailer is going to show a little bit more of the same events, a couple of different events, but it also pivots to a showcase of their 2D events, reminiscent of the NES and Genesis era of games. They do appear to have simplified gameplay, but it's at least an interesting peek at an alternate game mode. So that's a nice little dynamic here. They do show us the diving, long jump, couple of team sports on the field. And then finally, the last trailer gets a little bit of narration along with its events, boasting dream events and a story mode. Without much more information outside of the visuals to go off of, but despite the lack of overall information, the trailers do give us at least that brief look into the gameplay, which for sports games and party games, that is going to be where the game shines. And despite the video cuts showing less than 2 seconds of any single event at a time, we do still have the rest of the eShop page to learn more from. With that, we have our second part of the review coming up with our screenshots. Now, besides the title card, we get a total of 6 screenshots, so we're not going to get a whole lot of information out of them. We get a 2D foot racing, 3D foot racing, a 2D winner's stand, Boxing, and honestly, the Chow camera crew and Charmy B as the ref, legit adorable. I love that little aspect here. We do have a quick shot of surfing. Kind of weird that Mario's still wearing his gloves while surfing, but I guess he has to wear his gloves. And team based target shooting in a four-player split screen. Kind of cool there. That's all the screenshots. Again, we come right back to the title card there, so not a whole lot to go on. So the screenshots, I feel like they do leave a little bit lacking here. It shows just a little bit of the events. Now, we do see more of the events in the trailers, so it's not a complete loss, especially as quick and short as the trailers are. They do try to pack as much in there as possible. Um, we'll talk about like the menus and stuff later because I know menu and user interface is often something that can come up. None of the screenshots or trailer footage seems to show any of the like any kind of control outline. I know some games have gotten in the habit of using the edges of the game screen as kind of a tooltip area where it'll overlay your button commands over menus and over the screen so that if you need a quick reference to remind yourself what button is supposed to be what, it'll be there. Um, they don't appear to do that for any of these, or at least not in the trailers. In the actual game, I would have to pay $60 to find out. That might not be going for that, but overall, they do show us quite a bit. The stadiums do look nice, filled with so many characters. Like, yes, it's full of Shy Guys, Koopas, uh, Toads. Yeah, there's Toads all up in the stands, all kinds of stuff. It looks like a nice sports arena as opposed to just using like random like little pixelated messes. Like I know the Pokemon games, I think Pokemon Sword and Shield did it where it was just kind of hazy, vaguely filled looking arenas without like actual character sprites or models in there. But seeing it fill up like that here, the visuals do look genuinely nice across the screenshots and the trailers. So they do give us a lot of flash and flare with the rendering here. The surfing sequence looks golden. The targeting, honestly, the split screen multiplayer would probably be the most fun of this. Getting to play with a group. I did have a group of people back in the day. We played a fair amount of Wii Sports together and had this kind of split screen stuff or trading off the controls and stuff like that. All of that was the most fun time. And I feel like if you have that group of people, that's where you're going to get the most enjoyment out of a game like this. Now, we do also know that there is online gameplay for this, but again, I feel like you're going to get the most enjoyment out of local multiplayer. Anyway, part three of our review, the store description. It's party time and everyone's invited. Team up with Mario, Sonic, and friends on Nintendo Switch in action packed sporting events. Bring your best moves to the track, the gym, the ring, or the water in dozens of different party games everyone will enjoy. Skateboard, surf, and race your way to the top with more than 30 events to master in this fun filled Olympic Games contest. There are plenty of ways to prove your skills to your friends in multiplayer mode. Now, like I said, the multiplayer mode is something they are putting front and center here because when it comes to games like this, I feel like there's only going to be so much you get out of it. Like I do similar to like Mario Kart or Super Smash Brothers where they do have single player modes and you can get a lot of practice in single player, but the most fun of it is going to come from the multiplayer, especially if you get to play with friends and you get that kind of multiplayer chaos going on with each other. The teams all here play as Mario, Sonic, or choose from a star-studded cast of colorful characters from your favorite games. Dive into unique dream events. They did briefly mention the dream events in the trailer that layer fantastical chaos with reality. Zip through a downhill obstacle course on your hoverboard, so an alternate to skateboarding kind of events. Throwdown for territorial control with lightning fast karate action, or smash the most targets inside a traditional Japanese manner. Now we did see the Japanese manner one um, in the screenshots there. They did showcase that specifically in the split screen multiplayer showcase. And you won't want to miss an epic story mode that sends you to 1964 to compete in classic retro 2D sports events. Now, the way they frame this does sound kind of cool. With the 2D being tied into this story mode. Now they call it an epic story mode, but I sincerely wonder how much they deliver on that epic story mode, uh or if the story mode even comes close to being epic. Like I understand if there's like supposed to be some kind of a character narrative going on there as you're playing through, but even then it's like, okay, is there an actual story mode, or are you just going through a scripted series of events with maybe a couple of dialogue boxes going in? Because it comes off, it looks very much like a party game. It's packaged and advertised as a sports game, but it feels like a party game, like the Wii Sports and stuff like that. Like for anybody that's played that, I've played a fair amount of Wii Sports with my friends. Like I said, the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games just seemed like that similar kind of appeal, but specifically hinging on that Mario versus Sonic rivalry. Play any way you want on your Nintendo Switch. We're talking motion and button controls, single and dual Joy-Con, single player and multiplayer, local split screen, and online. So that's now, as far as the store page is concerned, I know for a lot of people that information might not mean much, but I do personally appreciate that they include that little bit of information there, letting us know that you do have options for how you control games. Because with party games like this, motion controls and swinging your arms around in an open room with your buddies can be incredibly fun, but it can also be one of the jankiest ways to control a game where button inputs are just going to be more precise and allow you for maybe some easier control and timing. So depending on whether you want to try and have that better control mechanism that you get from button inputs, or whether you want the wild arm flailing inflatable tube man nonsense of motion controls, or if you're short on controllers, having the option to, take your Joy Cons for and each player, like if you and one friend are playing around, if you only have the Joy Cons that came with your Switch, you don't have an extra set, you hand them the other one, you each have one Joy-Con to go. I do appreciate that they have those options and that they advertise it and they let you know that that is a possibility here. And again, also the local split screen and online. I could see online if you have a group online that maybe you get on a Discord chat, or I don't know if the Switch 2's voice chat features really handle well with that. If it doesn't like stutter the game too much, I could see that being an interesting little way to play there. Or like I said, getting some friends together in the room with you. Of course, that requires having friends. And I know I used to have some crews that would get together and we'd play some stuff regularly. But life gets busy and everyone's kind of deviates and goes off and continues their life where they're at. But those options are there for the people that have that kind of network, that have that thing, or that social interaction going on. Product details, they do tell us that the software includes online features that require a Nintendo Switch Online membership and a Nintendo account. Now, that I know that there is contention over that among certain circles of gaming communities. Personally, I understand that online memberships are just kind of a fact of our modern gaming industry. Like PlayStation and Xbox both have those kinds of things. For myself, I do have the family plan already with the Nintendo Switch, so I for me and my spouse, we so we have that going on. And sometimes if you go in on it with some people, that kind of thing. You can share the family plan with somebody if you got those, especially when it's like what 20 or I mean, it's more expensive for the family plan or the expansion family plan. But the cheapest one, $20 for I think a year of service. Let me see membership options. Uh yeah, 12 months for $20 for the baseline so that you would at least be able to have that option to play. Now, that said, we're going to go ahead and move in for part 4, our overall game analysis. The graphics, the graphics across the trailer and the screenshots look pretty good. Um they show us quite a bit from the camera angles, but it's still very short snippets that they have there. I feel like maybe if they could slow down the trailers a little, not slow down, but if they could like stretch the trailers just a little bit and show some of it, show like 10 seconds of a couple of events. Like if one trailer could just be 5 events at 10 seconds apiece to show us a little bit more of the gameplay as opposed to what we're seeing mostly in the cinematic excuse me, mostly in the cinematic sense. If we could see like a little more of what we expect to control, that would be cool to see that graphically. Um, Also, along line with the graphics, the 2D sections I think look incredibly interesting. It's a nostalgic throwback to the old designs of the NES and the Genesis. I do have an appreciation for that kind of thing. For the sound, the trailer does give us some nice music in the background, although I don't know if this is just a little bit of a cynic in me. It does feel like a little generic and sportsy with it when they could have gone for some internationally inspired remixes of like classic Mario and Sonic music in there. I feel like that's kind of where they dropped the ball here. Then again, if this is like music from the Olympic Games itself, I don't recall necessarily if this is the same kind of music that was used for the Olympic Games showcase. It does seem like it would be that kind of situation. Maybe that's why it sounds a little more generic because maybe it's just sticking in my brain from opening ceremonies or something when I was watching with my wife. Um, but I still think if the trailers included just a little bit of Mario or Sonic music in the background, that could have been like a cool little motif in here because even though it is an Olympic game, it is still Mario and Sonic. The gameplay, it looks like it feels like Wii Sports. The events appear to be short bursts, like short burst events. Maybe some of them are a little extended, especially ones where you're in a match or a team sport kind of situation. I'm sure the tennis goes on for a little bit for whoever reaches like the required points first. Other events like track racing are probably extremely short, I would imagine. Surfing might be a shorter one, just from how it looks, the kind of assumption I'm going to make from the trailers and from seeing the events here and having seen how Nintendo did these kinds of conglomerate multi-event games as opposed to being a sports game, a single sports game like Mario Super Strikers or Mario Basketball or Mario Golf. They are several events. And because of that, I think each event is probably going to get truncated a little bit and be like, you get one skateboard level. Hopefully, you're half decent at the controls to get that going. Or otherwise, you're going to be okay. Well, the Switch is being weird. That's just the kind of impression I'm getting here from the gameplay. It again, we don't get much from the trailers. Like I said, I think I would have preferred if one of the trailers could show maybe 5 separate events at 10 seconds apiece, at least that much. I did say earlier that we seem to get like less than 2 seconds of clip of any single event. The editing cuts are so fast and so numerous that it's hard to really get a sense of any specific thing that's going on. Almost like they were really pushing the flash of it. For UI and menus, that is one of the things that I have here for the game analysis. We see none of that. I did mention before how we don't seem to have anything around the screen to hint at controls. Although I have seen, like in Mario parties and stuff, they usually lead off with a practice round where you get an opportunity to, um, you get that opportunity to practice the controls before you actually engage in the mini games. At least in Mario Party, but we don't see from the trailers or this stuff here if you get that option in this game. Now, maybe somebody who's played other Mario and Sonic at the Olympic, if may, okay, you know what, Nintendo's being a little weird here, but we got the point. Um, we don't see we don't see that here, and for people who might not have played the originals or the older Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, uh, that's that's a whole thing that pardon that train of thought. Like, geez, that just completely threw me off there. Um, so Mario Sonic at the Olympic Games. If so, people that have played the old ones would probably have a better idea of what to expect. But for somebody looking only at the most recent release who doesn't necessarily want to go through the backlog of the series or might not have older hardware for the older games, who just wants to try out the newest one, that's what they'd have to go with there. Now, the pricing. The game is $60 full price. Nat, I don't know if it's necessarily the kind of game that would ever go on sale, or if it does go on sale, it's not going to get much of one because it is. Mario is one of Nintendo's big flagship properties, and when it comes to their first party titles like that, even though it's a Mario and Sonic game developed by Sega, it is still hinging on the Mario character and branding. So you know Nintendo is not going to pump huge sales out for it like they do with indie games. And at $60 full price, I do not expect to be able to find it for much of a price drop unless you were to get like a hard copy on sale or used somewhere. But getting it from the eShop, $60, I don't think I could see myself ever paying $60 for it, for what I feel like is mostly a party game, when even like Wii Sports was packaged with the Wii, or Wii Sports Resort, I think I had pulled for like $20 at its time, if I'm recalling correctly. That was a long time ago, mind you. But those games also didn't have the name branding of Mario or Sonic or the Olympics. It was very much the generic Wii packaging that went with it, but they still managed to create very fun experiences on that lower budget. And I feel like the price is mostly hinged on the fact that it is the mascot characters and the brand recognition as opposed to being the gameplay selling that $60 price point. Um, that's at least how it feels to me as a potential consumer of media. So with that, part 5, we get our rating for the game overall. Now this rating is not shitting on the game. The game looks like it could provide a lot of fun and a lot of good times in the right setting with the right group. I rate the store page for Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Tokyo 2020, 5 out of 10. Now, before everyone comes at me with their pitchforks, for all the diehard Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games fans, um, I believe I did voice my criticisms pretty well, and I tried to keep things fair where some things that I would like to see in the store page. I know a game like this, I wouldn't expect much in the way of menus or anything like that. But if we could at least maybe see a list of the events, we do see surfing, skateboarding. We see a couple of different like team sport events. There's tennis that look like volleyball in both. There was at least a 2D. I think it was a volleyball game going on in there. We see a lot of events, track and field going on. So there's no shortage of short clips, but if we could see like a list of the events there in the store page, or even not even a complete list, just show a little bit more than the very few bullet points that we get for that, so we can get a better idea of what we're trying to find there. Um, if we could see like again slightly longer video clips of a few select events, like whatever you think are the most fun events or the biggest selling points. Like pick a one or two events that were not in other Olympic games and have a longer showcase of those in the trailers, even if it's only about 10 seconds of clip footage for it. The 10 seconds could go a long way in just communicating a little bit more of the gameplay to potential buyers. And finally, the one of the big things that knocks down a game like this, in combination with the price, is that I don't see myself getting a lot of fun out of it playing by myself. Now, as I've gotten older, I've gotten to where there are certain kinds of games I like to play by myself, but then other kinds of games I much rather play with a community. Whether it's me playing and somebody hanging out in Twitch chat, we're bantering back and forth, or specifically playing multiplayer with other people, is where the game gets its most fun. And Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games looks like exactly that kind of game, which means for me to get the most enjoyment out of it, I would want to be able to get, up to get four people in the room with me on a big screen or on a projector, give everybody a controller for it, and then we go on our split screen multiplayer while we're, waving our arms around each other. That would just be I think, the most fun way to experience the game. Or even if I was playing online, assuming, the Nintendo isn't bumping me off like it did with the store page here. Then again, we are in the middle of getting ready to have the entire state I live in freeze over, so who knows? That might be a part of it. Um, Overall, it's not terrible. It looks like I can figure out my reasonable expectations for the game, but for $60 and not really enjoying it unless I get a bunch of people in house with me to enjoy it together, get some snacks and drinks for everybody. It's the kind of thing that I wouldn't be playing as often as I would like to warrant for that $60 price tag, which makes it hard to raise that score. So like I said, 5 out of 10 is what I'm giving this one. I feel like I would maybe go a little higher on it at a better price point or a substantial sale, like at least 50% off if I'm looking at that. Because even with the branding, the mascot characters, and all of that, I could throw the mascot characters out. I could throw the Olympic branding out if it's just a fun, accessible, and functional party game, which again goes back to that Wii Sports Resort era of of publishing. Who would I recommend it to? If you really like the mascot characters and the cast of characters, despite, the game just basically using them as, it looks like the game just kind of uses them as your shells or your like whatever kind of avatar you want to have for the sports games. Um if you like them and you have a group of people that you'll be able to play with regularly, that's who I would recommend this game to. For Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Again, not shitting on it. I do see good points in the game, even being, that first party shill looking title. Uh, but it is very hard for me to give it much a better score, and it's hard for me to give it a recommendation unless somebody specifically has that kind of group that is going to go in on it with them. Now, just a reminder, the views expressed here, they are purely opinions. We've all got different tastes. Anybody out there with differing opinions, constructive points, by all means, let me know what you think in the comments. Anybody out there who has played this, by all means, let me know what you guys think too. Especially with this game, since this game came out late 2019, I imagine the online play might be a little more haphazard because I don't know how active a player base it's going to have after all that time, considering how many other online games there are, which again kind of leads into why I would recommend this if you have like that kind of party game enjoying group that gets together. So that's my take. Take it, leave it, share your score, share your thoughts. I'll catch you next week. Oh my gosh, next week we got to look at more sports.